The first thing Queen Valera heard was the sound of the hangar doors locking. The second was the sound of 10,000 alien soldiers charging their weapons. The third was the human beside her breathing calmly. Too calmly. Valera pressed her back against the cold steel wall, one hand trembling against the wound beneath her ribs. Purple blood slipped between her fingers. Kale. The human didn't look at her. He was staring through the enormous hangar doors. Beyond them stood an army. Rows upon rows of armored soldiers filled the docking bay. Black helmets, red optical sensors, plasma rifles, heavy assault armor. And behind them stood the man who had betrayed her. Commander Varric. Valera's own military commander. Her own cousin. The man who had sworn to protect her throne. Varric stepped forward. Queen Valera, he called across the hangar. Your reign ends tonight. Valera swallowed. She looked at the human standing between her and the army. Kale Mercer. Her personal guard. The only human soldier still serving inside the Aurelian Empire. He wore battered black combat armor, scratched and burned from battles that Valera had never been allowed to know about. A rifle hung in his right hand. His left arm was bleeding. Yet he stood like nothing was wrong. Valera grabbed his arm. Kale. He finally looked at her. His eyes were strangely peaceful. Stay behind me. There are thousands of them. I know. You cannot fight them. I know that too. Her voice cracked. Then leave. Kale stared at her. Valera stepped closer. You heard me. Take an escape pod. Go. He said nothing. Kale, please. Still nothing. Her eyes filled with tears. Don't die for me. For the first time that night, something changed in the human's expression. Not fear. Not hesitation. Something colder. Determination. He gently removed her hand from his arm. Then he turned toward the army. Valera whispered, Kale, what are you doing? He raised his rifle, making sure they regret coming through that door. And then the hangar lights went out. 3 hours earlier, Queen Valera had been preparing to sign a peace treaty. The Aurelian Empire had been at war for 17 years. Millions had died. Worlds had burned. Entire civilizations had disappeared beneath orbital bombardments. And Valera had finally negotiated something her father had failed to achieve. Peace. The treaty would unite 6 hostile star systems. Trade routes would reopen. Prisoners would return home. The killing would stop. But Valera had one problem. Her generals hated the treaty. They believed peace was weakness. And among those generals, none hated it more than Commander Varric. You are giving them everything, Varric had told her during the council meeting. Valera sat upon the imperial throne. No, I'm giving our people a future. Varric's jaw tightened. Your father would never have agreed. My father died 20 years ago. He died fighting. And how many children died because he kept fighting? The chamber became silent. Varric looked away. Valera knew she had won the argument. She didn't know she had already lost the war. Because while the council debated peace, Varric's soldiers were taking control of the palace. And nobody noticed. Except one man. Kale Mercer. Kale had been watching the guards for nearly 40 minutes. Something was wrong. The palace security teams had changed positions. 2 communication towers had gone offline. The western hangar was sealed. And 3 officers who normally guarded the queen had disappeared. Kale didn't report it. He simply walked into Valera's private chamber. She looked up from a holographic document. You're not supposed to be here. Neither are Varric's soldiers. Valera froze. What? Kale closed the door. Your palace is being surrounded. She stood. By whom? Your military. Her expression hardened. That is impossible. Kale pulled a small data chip from his belt. He placed it on her desk. The hologram activated. Security feeds appeared. Hundreds of soldiers were moving through underground corridors. Valera's face went pale. Varric. Kale nodded. He's not taking the palace. What is he doing? taking the throne. Valera stared at the footage. Then she noticed something else. A second set of troops. Not Aurelian. Alien mercenaries. Hundreds of them. Who are they? Kale's expression darkened. That's the part one don't like. Why? Because I know them. Valera looked at him. From where? Kale hesitated. Then he said quietly, Earth. She frowned. Earth. My home. Humanity had been officially declared extinct 62 years earlier. At least, that's what the galaxy believed. The Aurelian Empire had records confirming that Earth had been destroyed during the Sol War. No survivors. No ships. No military. Nothing. Valera had never questioned the records. Until now. You told me you were the last human. I told you I was the last human serving inside this empire. That isn't the same thing. No. Then how many humans are alive? Kale looked directly into her eyes. Enough. The word made her heart stop. Before she could ask another question, the palace shook. An explosion rocked the eastern tower. Glass shattered. The lights flickered. Then the emergency sirens began screaming. Kale immediately moved. Behind me. Valera reached for the ceremonial blade at her waist. I can fight. I know. Then don't treat me like a prisoner. I don't. He checked the magazine in his rifle. I treat you like the person I'm supposed to keep alive. The door exploded inward. 3 armored soldiers entered. Kale fired once. The first soldier dropped. He moved before the others could react. 2 shots. 2 bodies. Valera stared. She had seen trained Imperial warriors fight. Kale moved differently. No wasted motion. No hesitation. No anger. Just efficiency. He turned toward her. Time to go. Where? Anywhere that isn't here. They escaped through an old maintenance tunnel beneath the palace. Valera had never known it existed. Kale had memorized the entire palace during his first month as her guard. They ran for several minutes. Then Valera noticed blood on the floor. Kale. Keep moving. You're hurt. Not mine. She looked down. The blood was blue. One of Varek's soldiers. Kale crouched beside the body. He removed a small communication device. A distorted voice came through. Target secured. Begin Phase 2. Kale's eyes narrowed. Phase 2. Valera looked at him. What does that mean? Kale didn't answer. The tunnel suddenly shook. A massive blast tore through the ceiling behind them. Kale grabbed Valera and pushed her forward. Run! They reached the emergency hangar. The doors opened. Their escape ship was waiting. Valera climbed aboard. Kale followed. But the moment the ship lifted from the hangar, the entire palace disappeared beneath a shield of blue energy. Valera stared through the viewport. What happened? Kale's face became grim. That's not a shield. What is it? A containment field. Why? To keep something inside. A deep vibration moved through the ship. Then every communication screen activated simultaneously. Commander Varek appeared. He was smiling. Your Majesty. Valera stepped toward the screen. You betrayed me. No. Varek smiled wider. I liberated the Empire from you. You will answer for this. I won't be answering to anyone. Behind Varek, the camera shifted. Valera saw the throne room, and surrounding it were hundreds of soldiers. Then she saw something else. A black alien device suspended above the throne. Kale stared at it. That's impossible. Valera looked at him. What? Kale whispered. Nullgate. Varek laughed. Your human knows our history. Kale's grip tightened around his rifle. Varek continued. For 17 years, the Empire has searched for the legendary weapon hidden beneath your capital. Valera's face changed. What weapon? The weapon that destroyed Earth. Kale looked at her. And for the first time since she had met him, she saw fear in his eyes. The ship was hit before they could escape the planet. Kale tried to maneuver. The engines screamed. The ship spun. Valera grabbed the seat. Can we survive? Kale looked at the damage display. No. Her heart sank. Then he smiled. Fortunately, we don't need to. He pulled a lever. The entire rear section of the ship detached. The escape module launched. The main ship continued toward the enemy fleet. Valera stared at him. You sacrificed our ship. Kale nodded. It bought us 90 seconds. For what? He pointed toward the stars. A tiny light appeared. Then another. Then hundreds. Valera's eyes widened. Ships emerged from hyperspace. Not Aurelian. Not Varek's fleet. They were black. Angular. Silent. Their hulls carried a symbol Valera had never seen. A white circle surrounded by 3 vertical lines. Kale looked at the approaching fleet. Humanity. Valera could barely breathe. You knew they were coming. No. Then how? I sent them a message before we left the palace. Why didn't you tell me? Because if Varek captured you, he would have found out. Valera stared at the fleet. How many? Kale smiled faintly. Enough. The human fleet attacked. There was no warning. No declaration. No demand for surrender. The first wave simply vanished into hyperspace. Then the Aurelian defense fleet began exploding. Varek's forces fired everything they had. It didn't matter. Human ships moved between missiles as if they already knew where every projectile would be. One human cruiser appeared directly above the capital. Its engines went dark. A hatch opened. Hundreds of soldiers dropped toward the planet. Valera watched in disbelief. They're not using escape pods. Kale nodded. They don't need them. The soldiers disappeared into the atmosphere. Moments later, explosions appeared across the city. Valera looked at Kale. Who are you? He remained silent. She stepped closer. Who are you really? He finally answered. I was a soldier. Way. Earth. During the Soul War. Yes. You're old enough to have fought. I was 19. Valera's voice softened. And your family? Kale looked away. Gone. She regretted asking. But before she could apologize, a transmission came through. A human officer appeared. Mercer. Kale straightened. Report. The palace is secure except for the throne chamber. How many? Approximately 6,000. Valera stared. 6,000. The officer nodded. And Varek has activated the null gate. Kale's expression changed. Can you stop it? Not from outside. Then I'll go in. The officer looked at Valera. Negative. The Queen stays with the evacuation fleet. Kale shook his head. She comes with me. The officer hesitated. Then nodded. Understood. The transmission ended. Valera looked at Kale. You're taking me into the palace? Yes. Why? Because Varek can't activate the gate without you. She froze. What? Kale looked at the black device above the distant palace. It doesn't run on power. Then what does it run on? Royal blood. They landed inside the palace less than 15 minutes later. The corridors were filled with smoke. Bodies lay scattered across the marble floor. Valera stopped. These were her soldiers. Her people. Kale gently placed a hand on her shoulder. Don't look. I need to. You don't. I am their queen. Kale looked at her. And I'm your guard. She stared at him. What does that mean? It means when you can't keep walking, I'll carry you. Valera's eyes filled with tears. Why? Kale didn't answer. They reached the throne chamber. The doors opened. Thousands of soldiers stood inside. Varek stood beneath the black machine. He smiled. You came. Valera stepped forward. You're finished. No. Varek looked at Kale. He is. Every rifle in the chamber aimed at the human. Valera grabbed Kale's arm. Don't. Kale looked at her. Stay behind me. Kale. The first row of soldiers advanced. Valera whispered, Don't die for me. Kale's eyes hardened. He stepped forward. One man. One rifle. Thousands of enemies. Varric laughed. Kill him. The soldiers opened fire. Kale moved. He disappeared behind a pillar. Plasma bolts ripped through the room. He fired from cover. 1, 2, 3. Then he moved again. The soldiers advanced. Kale kept moving. Every shot counted. Every step was deliberate. Valera watched him fight an entire army. But then something happened. His rifle clicked empty. Silence. Varric smiled. Now. Kale dropped the rifle. He reached behind his back and pulled out something Valera had never seen. A small black device. He activated it. Every human soldier inside the palace suddenly stopped. The enemy soldiers stopped too. Even Varric froze. Kale looked at the black device. Protocol 7. The lights went red. Then every human weapon in the palace activated simultaneously. The enemy soldiers screamed. Varric stared in horror. What are you? Kale looked at him. A survivor. Then the human soldiers attacked. The battle lasted less than 3 minutes. When it ended, Varric was on his knees. Valera approached him. You killed thousands of my people. Varric laughed weakly. You still don't understand. He pointed toward the null gate. Humanity isn't here to save you. Valera looked at Kale. Varric continued. They came for that. The black device above the throne began glowing. Kale's face changed. Everyone out. Valera frowned. What? Now. The chamber began shaking. Cracks appeared across the floor. The null gate opened. Not like a door. Like space itself was tearing apart. Beyond it was darkness. Then Valera heard something. A sound from the other side. Thousands of voices. Kale stared into the opening. No. Valera grabbed his hand. What is it? He looked at her. The reason Earth was destroyed. The darkness moved. Something enormous approached. Varric began laughing. You thought humans were the survivors. The creature emerged. A colossal machine covered in black armor. Its body stretched across the chamber. Its eyes opened. Red. Cold. Ancient. Valera stepped backward. What is that? Kale raised his rifle. The first machine humanity ever built. The creature spoke. Its voice shook the entire palace. Human species detected. Kale stared upward. I'm not your enemy. The machine answered. Incorrect. Its weapons activated. Humanity is the enemy. Kale looked at Valera. Run. She shook her head. No. Valera. You told me you would carry me if I couldn't walk. She stepped beside him. So I'm staying. Kale smiled. For the first time, he looked almost relieved. Then stay behind me. Valera raised her blade. No. She looked at the enormous machine. Beside you. The machine fired. Kale and Valera moved together. The chamber disappeared beneath explosions. Human soldiers poured through the doors. The machine tore through them. One by one, the humans fell. But they kept coming. Valera finally understood. This was what humans were. Not invincible. Not immortal. Not fearless. They simply refused to stop. Kale reached the control platform. He slammed his hand against it. Open the planetary shield. Valera looked at him. Why? To trap it. You'll trap yourself. I know. She grabbed him. No. Kale looked at her. If that thing leaves this planet, it will destroy every world in this system. Then we'll find another way. There isn't one. Then make one. Kale stared at her. She was crying. Humans taught me something, she whispered. What? That impossible doesn't mean finished. Kale smiled. Then he looked toward the machine. That's my queen. Together, they activated the shield. The entire capital became a cage. The machine roared. Human ships surrounded the planet. Thousands of weapons locked onto the palace. Kale opened a transmission. To every human ship. Static. Then voices answered. Ready. Kale looked at Valera. On my mark. She nodded. He raised his rifle. 3. The machine charged. 2. The palace shook. 1. Kale fired. Every human ship fired with him. A storm of weapons struck the machine. The null gate collapsed. And the ancient weapon disappeared. Silence. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then the palace ceiling opened. Stars appeared above them. Valera looked at Kale. He was lying on the floor. Blood covered his armor. She dropped beside him. Kale. His eyes opened. You're alive. So are you. He smiled. Good. She laughed through her tears. You're impossible. I've been told. She helped him sit up. Around them, human soldiers were helping wounded enemies. Valera looked at them. You saved my empire. Kale shook his head. No. Then what did you save? He looked at her. You. Valera was silent. Then she removed the royal insignia from her armor. She placed it in his hand. What is this? My first command. Kale stared. I don't understand. You're no longer my guard. Then what am I? Valera smiled. My protector. She looked toward the stars. And humanity's ambassador. Kale laughed. You're making that official. Very. What if your generals object? Valera looked at the thousands of human ships surrounding the planet. Then she looked at the soldiers who had survived. I don't think they'll object. Kale stood. Painfully. Slowly. But he stood. Valera watched him. Where are you going? He looked toward the enormous hangar doors. Home. She followed him. Oath. Kale stopped. For the first time, he smiled without sadness. No. He looked at the stars. Somewhere we can build it again. Valera stood beside him. Then take me with you. Kale looked at her. You're an alien queen. And you're a human soldier. So. She smiled.